is the age of the multi-dimensional self.
Hi there, everyone. It's Kelly here from Divine Alchemy Healing, and today I'm delighted and excited to welcome Tim Walter to join us for another one of our interviews. And Tim, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me, and thank you for accommodating the pre-record session rather than the live.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's always nice to have a little quick chat, isn't it, before we
Yeah,
on camera, so to speak. So,
yeah.
could you tell us how you first got into dowsing and pendulum work as a starting point, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, dowsing is easy to explain, and I'll come on to the pendulum work in a sec.
Sure.
But the re I'm going to go back a long way, okay? So
Right.
just wave or something if I get tedious and off the path, right? Because basically, way back around about 2000, I was a video producer and working like a lot of people do to earn a living, and the idea of, you've got to earn as much cash as you can to keep the family and all of that stuff. And I was living with my wife and two boys in Tunbridge Wells in Kent. And we had a little two up, two down. And that was great and it was fine. But it was a growing family. And the southeast of England, I was increasingly feeling that it was just so congested. It was literally doing my head in. And so my wife and I decided to move. And we moved right across the country to the Welsh borders.
Wow.
And that process is what started me on this journey. And it's what directly brought me into dowsing, because fundamentally we moved into an old house, an old Georgian house, on the edge of a place called the Forest of Dean.
Yeah.
And we went through a few strange experiences there, and there were things that were happening. I was seeing dark figures out of the corner of my eye and this sort of thing. And the house was lovely, but it had some peculiar areas to it. You think, well, maybe that's a bit unpleasant in that room. We'll get that fixed. Now, you've got to bear in mind that I didn't know anything about any spirituality stuff and those subtle energy. I didn't understand any of that. And then, to cut a long story short, we were advised to get the house spiritually cleared. And that was the first time we'd heard this phrase. What does that mean? So we actually got in touch with some dowsers, and three ladies came along one day. And I tend to say they were like the three witches of Macbeth coming in and sort of like the start of something important. And they basically located earth energy lines. And they also introduced us to the guardian of those lines, although they didn't call her that at the time. But the fact was that they were talking to a spirit with dowsing. And so I thought, well, I've got to learn this. I've got to learn what the heck there is that they're doing with these dowsing rods so that I can talk to this lady, this presence, who said that she just wanted to be part of the family. And that's fundamentally how I started dowsing. But you see, you introduced it with dowsing with the pendulum. I do use a pendulum now, but it was years before I actually could get the thing working. So I spent a lot of time originally working and exploring earth energy and this sort of thing, and talking with our guardian spirit there with the dowsing rods. So yeah, but
Yeah,
we can talk more about the dowsing pendulum. Sorry,
yes.
in a sec, as you like.
That's really interesting because my path is sort of similar to yours. I moved into a house and there was a lot of entity activity. Didn't really know much about it. I could feel energies. And my partner at the time was a complete atheist.
Uh,
So, really not, well, he
yeah,
couldn't work out what the heck was going on, because there was a lot of damage to things and all sorts of strange things happening. And then eventually we were told to call the spiritualist church, although they didn't
mm,
douse, they did trance channel,
mm.
cleared the house, and that's what sort of started
Exactly.
us.
You see, that's the point, is that very often we get these moments in life which actually act as the catalyst for our trajectory thereafter. Do you know what I mean? So, and it doesn't matter how massive an experience it is, or how little an experience it is, because it completely varies and depends on the individual, how they're going to receive it. And all of these things are you know organized, structured, whatever you like, by the management, by the higher beings.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm just about to cough, which I knew not convenient. Hang on a sec. That doesn't bode well.
Don't worry, I sometimes get a sticky throat when we're talking because it's
It's also right. Okay, so it's also part of the journey that I'm on at the moment, which is because we live these lives that are constantly in change. We're constantly developing. We're constantly working on ourselves because that's the nature of what we are as human beings, right? There's a need for that development, and actually the spiritual experience that we have that kicks it all off is part of the plan, if you want to lay it out like that.
yeah.
It's really debatable whether actually there is a plan or not, but it's fine. We can talk about it in those terms. So, although I do a lot of work on YouTube and I do a lot of videos and all of that thing, when we have a conversation like this, there is a lot of stress for me.
Yeah.
And I recognize that it's all conditioned responses. Now, this is relevant to your audience as well. So, we are built as human beings to literally take on the energy of our experience, and it gets embedded in the cells. And therefore, part of the process of healing, that is, as I say, constant throughout life, is to adjust and change and free that energy that is embedded. So when I get stressed to that extent of actually the throat constricts, as we know, because it happens, that's what happens when we're stressed, and then it's just like, it's the last thing that I want to happen. You can leave this in. I'm quite happy for this to be in the interview, because it's important that people recognize that our fallibilities are the integral aspect of us that makes us human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And that's not about ego. That's just recognizing that the human being is the container for the spiritual experience. And that's really where we are on the path. That's what we're going for. And that's what dowsing leads us to, or it can do if we want to take it there.
And it's feedback, isn't it? In a way that there's something still there that either that's a weak spot, for instance, or it's something, that's coming up suddenly. Let's do some work on it.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
I mean, going back to the sort of uncomfortable houses, let's call it. It took me a while to get to this point, but now I look back on it and I'm so thankful for that experience, because it accelerated my growth spiritually, and made me much more aware. Although I was slightly energy aware, it really opened my eyes to a whole other world that's going on, that, yes, we can sense it if we're tuned into it, but maybe not if we're, completely blind to it or not open to that. So I think everything ends up taking you where you need to go, doesn't it?
It does, and it's very much in terms of the things that are delivered to us to be dealing with that are uncomfortable and difficult. You cannot see them as being a healing gift at the time. It just doesn't happen like that. It's just like, what the heck is going on? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't see or don't find their way out of it in a way that that one can. And most of the time, it is actually recognizing it for what it really truly is, aligning with it at your true self level, and working and learning from it as you step on from it. But you can't do that until you recognize it for what it is. And so most people are stuck in circumstance that they don't find comfortable, but they can't see that it is actually I was going to say simple process. It's not necessarily simple, but the act of turning one's perspective about it on its head, to see it as a positive experience. Right, what can we do with this? Although it's really uncomfortable, how do we change it? Right, and that's the point. And no, it's not simple.
No, but it's magical in its own right, isn't it? And that's what sort of really always gives me hope with whatever's going on in the 3D reality, externally in the country or the world. Like, we're living in a magical universe where we do have the power to create and shift our energy field in very simple ways, really. You know,
Yeah. Can I interrupt you there? Because the key thing here about what you're saying there is again about point of view, about your perspective on it. Because the 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 only thing that actually is important is your individual direct experience, right? Because what you're doing when you pay attention only to your individual direct experience, you are bringing your co-creative power directly to bear on your direct experience of life, which is what we're born to be doing. Because the essence of us is the energy, the light within us. All of this that we feel might be complicated, might be difficult, might be, oh, threat of Third World War, that's all crap.
yeah,
That is as a result of our energy processing that's going on. Now, that's not to say that we completely ignore it, but what I'm saying for spiritual development, you pay attention to what you directly interact with through your 5.5 senses. Okay, so you can change your perspective, and viewers can change their perspective on life and what they perceive to be difficult by, okay, pare away, ignore, forget. You can even do it on a list.
yeah,
Write down what you are directly experiencing in your life. What is positive, for one thing, what is not so good on the other side of things. I nearly said negative, that's not
yeah,
quite right. Yeah, so write down what's not so good on that side. Then look at that list and just see which of those things am I actually interacting with on a day-to-day basis as a human being. That's fine, as a human being, right? But then take the spiritual energy and just say, what does that represent? What is that showing me? Meditate on it, do it like that, and that list will reduce right down, and you'll actually see the symbolism that you've been fighting with probably for years, and it'll be there in black and white in your own handwriting.
yeah,
And it's a process, right? So the thing is here is that the world that we live in is absolutely symbolic and needn't be taken from the perspective of the way that we live it as a human being, as a humanistic as a humanistic physical being.
yeah.
It can be perceived purely as relationships of energies. Now, that's a different concept altogether. That's not saying you're a physical being living in a physical world. What that's saying is that you're a non-physical being living in an environment of non-physicality that is showing you how your energy is being processed and what your energy requires and needs and is asking you to do.
Absolutely. It's really interesting because I've hit a certain age now where it's sort of like some of the time I can feel quite exhausted, or I wake up feeling exhausted. Whereas I always, in my younger years, I used to bounce out of bed and it should be ready. I'm like, yeah, come on. And I still love mornings. They're my favorite time of the day. But I'd noticed recently I was paying more attention to the aches and pains and bits and bobs that were sort of I felt were limiting. And I was using the pendulum over the last few days to just clear that and then focus on having more energy and being able to do all the things that I want to do and really enjoy it. And even that has just shifted my perspective so quickly, which is part of the thing I love about pendulum work, as well as you're putting out a new intention and adding in with the pendulum as well. I feel like this work's so simple in some ways, isn't it? As long as you understand what you're aiming for.
Yes, exactly. It is very, very simple. It is very, very, very simple. But that doesn't mean to say that it's simple to overcome the human fallibilities and the human difficulties. But the work itself is very simple. And actually, what I try to do is to help people see how simple it really can be. And that's not by kind of doing extensive energy work in terms of trying to understand, well, the different layers here and what are we dealing with and blah, 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 and trying to categorize everything and trying to, that just gets such a mind-bending mix of stuff.
Yes.
Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Simple as possible. And then you can start to step away from it because you can understand it and you can assimilate it. Yeah, I mean, I think the key, one of the, obviously we work with the pendulum and we can use that in for many different ways. You know, the sort of dowsing that I do is like, I've started to kind of refer to it more like intuitive dowsing
Mm.
because there are, you know, once you start to talk to so many different dowsers, there are different, you know, everybody
Yeah.
actually, you know, not only are they unique in themselves, but they actually, so therefore they're doing the dowsing in a unique way as well. And they kind of think, well, everybody douses like this. Well, no, they don't. But, you know, um, and this is partly why I get asked a lot when you know on the channel I get asked a lot to look for lost pets or lost people.
Right.
Well, not so much the people, but you
Yeah.
know sometimes it happens. Or you know, can you douse for water on my land? No, I don't. And I won't. I won't douse for water for people, and I won't douse for lost animals. And there are I can't think of the other areas of there are other things that I don't douse for. But on the positive side, what I do is work with energy and work with people and help people step away from the problems that they have, and that those are typically manifest in their homes. So the way that I tend to work with dowsing is, so if I'm working with a pendulum, for one thing, I'll do it on a really short chain. And people say, well, why is that? You know, why aren't you leaving it there? You know, well, quite frankly, it's because I'm really impatient. And so if I have it on a nice short chain like that, and I set it off in a search position, and then we'll talk about something, I don't know, we'll do whatever, but it's going to give me a positive response with a clockwise motion really quickly if it's on a nice short chain. I haven't got time to be sitting there like that. No,
Yeah.
exactly. And again, I mean, you know, you'll get the same thing. I expect of people saying, commenting like, "I can see your hand move." It's like, well, yeah, duh. That's sorry. I mean, I don't mean it like that. I mean, it's like, well, yeah, the hand moving is moving partly because we're obviously giving it energy anyway in the first place, but also to me, the way that it works is very simply that well, it's what the critics call the idiomotor effect. So
Yeah.
it means that you know
Yeah.
we are subconsciously picking up information, and then that information is channeled through to our muscular movements, and the tiny, insignificant movements of the muscles affect the dowsing pendulum or the dowsing rods. And that, yeah, the cynics call it idiomotor effect. But I say, well, yeah, that's the way it works. Because otherwise, what do we think we're doing? You know, because our power, as we've talked about already, our power is in our subconscious. It's in our connection to everything and all that is. And as soon as you open that up and allow that to come through, and you get guidance with your aches and pains and what have you, then you know that's what you're doing. You're using your subconscious, and it's all about consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And it's interesting, like I did most of my work is either like doing chart work or um, with a healing sort of, you know, to make statements to, I think you call them the higher guides or,
Yeah, higher beings is what I would call them.
um, and I still get surprised today how quickly that can clear something for people. But my parents lost. My mum wears hearing aids, and she lost a hearing aid, and she was in a real panic about it. And so I just took the pendulum and asked what room it was in, and then I got intuitively it's in the bin, which is
Ah,
sort of typical. And my dad was sort of grumbling, going, I don't want to have to go through the bin, you know. But anyway, we came off the call, and then I got a text 20 minutes later from my dad saying it was in the bin,
yeah, excellent.
you know. And I've definitely used pendulums to find my cats when I had cats occasionally go missing and things like that as well. And,
Good.
you know, you're picking up on universal energy as well, aren't you?
Yeah, you're picking up on universal energy, which is what we're saying about the subconscious. The subconscious connects into what sometimes is referred to as super consciousness, which is the kind of sacred higher energies that are around everything. But if you're still good at dowsing for animals and lost items, I can send you people to douse for. So you have to put a little.
Well, do you know what? It's not my real realm of
No.
because I work from home as a therapist, and I mean now pension work is the king with certain guides and things, and
Yeah.
I call it therapeutic pendulum healing, but I don't mind the odd odd one, like coming in. I don't tend to use maps or anything, partly because of my eyes being a bit
Of course.
hard to see.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but it's funny, you know, there's certain things like I see on the group sometimes. People will say, they'll put a question up and they'll say, does so and so still love me? And I'm like,
Uh,
please don't answer that, people.
no. Okay. I remember when I used to teach dowsing, at like mind, body, spirit shows, and you'd give somebody rods because it was always rods in those days, and they would instantly be asking these big questions. It's like, should I leave my job? It's like, yes, and you're like, don't ask that question. It's part of this whole thing is about context.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also, we also have to bear in mind that life that we experience through the subconscious, life doesn't actually mind what we do. And I know you and I earlier on were talking about, the way that the catalyst can set off and your life is planned, or so it seems, but we don't know that for sure. And we don't even know whether we've got free will. There are so many things we don't know about. And life itself, the universe, conscious cosmos, doesn't actually care what we do. It's about just doing and being and experiencing. Now, so when we're using the pendulum, there are so many different variables that can come in. I always say to people, don't ask those big questions before you're really confident in understanding what your dowsing is and you understand what your relationship is. Because everybody's, as we've said it, and we're going to be saying it all the time today, but everybody's connection is absolutely unique. And that is in so many different nuances that when we're teaching dowsing, we cannot say this is the way to do it.
No.
It has to always be, how does that feel for you? Go off and try that. Experience, feel your way into that. Does that feel good for you? Does that work for you? Because what we're doing, as a house healer and as a therapist yourself, there, a well-being practitioner, what you're doing is you're helping people step into their own power and recognize their own abilities. There's absolutely no way on this earth that people should be telling other people what to do.
Yeah.
And do it like me. Don't do that. And in fact, I encourage people to say, look, okay, well, listen to what I'm saying if you want to. Clearly, all I do on my YouTube channel is to repeat my experience. And if it sits with you, that's great. But go away and see what other people are talking about, and the same thing. Go and try their way of doing it and see what sits with you. I don't care whether you like what I'm. No, I do. I care deeply if people don't like what I'm saying. But if it doesn't resonate with them, that's fine, because that's the point.
Yeah, with everybody, everyone finds their own way, don't they? Have you got any advice for people beginning? Because we've had a few people over the last couple of years of having a Pendulum Facebook group that have really struggled. And part of me feels like it might be to do with they're not very grounded and they're not doing it from a good energy state. But what would be your advice for people starting off?
Yeah, well, both of those points are very common. The problem with dowsing, there are two things about dowsing. Well, the problem is that it's very easy to do. If somebody wants to ask a question, then they'll do it. And as we said, they'll probably ask the big questions and chaos can ensue. However, so the real thing is that to look at dowsing as part of the bigger picture that is enabling you as the person to start to explore an aspect of yourself that you haven't explored up to that point. Now, what that means is that the most important thing is actually to understand the energy of your own heart. Now, that's really, really important because, as we were saying, we're energy beings, and it's the heart that is really the main manifesting tool, if you like, coming into the physicality. It's the heart that is affected by the subconscious and is a major part in manifesting what we experience. So if you understand your own heart, I know this is a bit advanced for a beginner, but we'll bring it back down the line again in a sec. But if you understand your heart, then you understand your connection with clarity to the dowsing. And there is no danger that you are mixing the signal at that point. I'll say that again. There's actually little danger that you're mixing the signal. There's always a slight risk that we're getting it wrong. I don't expect that my dowsing is 100% every time I pick up a pendulum or a rod. So pendulum's what you like to focus on, so that's fine. But I don't expect my results to be 100%, and I just accept that. It's not necessarily comfortable when you're working with a client and there's stuff that it's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about there, Tim. Well, okay, let's move on. But so bringing this back to the basics, for somebody that's learning, that being grounded 100%, you have to be grounded, and therefore really, in order to get good results from dowsing, a person does need to do a practice like meditation. They do need to be mindful, and meditation is the best way to start incorporating that mindfulness into their own life. And the reason for that is because that then starts you on that path to understanding what this is all about, what the heart is all about. So you can't hope to progress as a dowser without doing some form of energy process, which meditation mindfulness is.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and that's grounded, the grounded nature of what you picked up on. So the other issue that you mentioned there, because I can't immediately think of any other issue that I would say, well, think of such and such. But the other issue that you're talking about there is actually the intention that the dowser has.
Yeah.
Again, I'm afraid it comes back to the heart, because there are a lot of people with the best will in the world that they say, right, we need to heal the world, so I'm going to go to a stone circle and I'm going to heal the world. Right, okay, fine. That's fine. But what they're doing is they're saying, my view of the world is the right one. I'm going to ask that everybody gets into the same thinking that I have.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work. So the heart is about understanding what we talked about already, but the understanding that we are far more than just the physical being, the human being. And what we want as a person, as a humanistic person, is not necessarily what the 90% of us, that is the subconscious and the higher energies of us, because that's what we are, combination of all energies, comes down to the physical aspect. All of that energy is probably wanting something else, but the 10% of that person's energy is doing the dowsing and wanting the questions and wanting the answers to suit that 10%. So understanding the heart, moving forward, doing the development work, means that the process itself works more effectively. But unfortunately, for maybe some of your viewers and those on the Facebook group, unfortunately, that does require work and effort, and it is a path. And that is the point, is that dowsing, as far as I'm concerned, and the way that I would try to put it across on my channel, is that dowsing is the door opener. Dowsing is a fantastic way to open the door to possibility and your own potential.
Yeah.
And to enable you to start on the path to really step into your power as that spiritual being. And that, to me, is what's so important. And that's really what I'm about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, I once had a conversation with one of my guides who said it's okay to ask for peace on earth, but how do you think people are going to learn?
Yes.
He said the peace is when you get in the other dimensions.
Yes.
You haven't come here for peace necessarily. It's nice to have some, obviously.
Yeah. No, our environment that we're in is it could, but it could be heaven on earth. It could be heaven on earth, but then we wouldn't call it earth.
No.
Right? It's not, and it wouldn't be populated by physical human beings. So this vibration that we exist in is a fantastic school. And the way that you learn is by being given lessons to learn from, by being given problems. Yeah. It's like doing maths when you're a 10-year-old or a 11-year-old, or trying to learn to tie your shoelaces. This is really hard. This is really difficult, when you're 4 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you get the challenges, and that's what this is. This is an environment for challenges. It's a fantastic environment for learning and for growth. But, I mean, if I have a list of points that I'll be raising when I go back upstairs, it'll be like, why do you have to make it so hard? It's like, can't you do something about that?
It'd be wonderful if some of the energy techniques that, I'm sure you and myself and others have discovered along the way were actually taught early on,
Yes,
wouldn't there? Like,
yes.
I think, I mean,
I mean, just to pick up on that, there are a lot of people that are actually working on exactly that. I mean, like the lady that created this mandala behind me here, she's an American lady, and she's actually got a syllabus that goes into very early learning schools in America. That is all about labyrinths. It's all about subtle energy. It's all about the power of the heart, and it is having effect. But these are tiny people. These are really young kids that are learning this. But that's so important because I was at school in the 60s, 70s, and it's like this would not have been any, I mean, yes, you had the hippies, you had all the summer of love and all of this sort of stuff going on, but that was on a different wavelength.
yeah. And we're
This is,
probably in a different energy field
yeah,
in terms of what's going on in the frequency of the earth,
yeah,
weren't we? Whereas
yeah.
now, like, I mean, it feels quite easy to manifest,
Yes, it is.
but like it's also what you've got to be aware of is you can manifest brilliant, amazing stuff, but you can just as easily manifest pain and
Yeah,
suffering or whatever.
yeah. This is actually the whole point, Kelly. This is precisely why there are so many people waking up now.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that they face is that because they're not doing this work, they're not doing the heart work. So it's up to people like you and me and everybody else that's on this kind of different. It's like, hang on, that sounds egotistical, but it's up to people to help other people
Yeah.
learn that this is where we are now. This is the situation we're with. This isn't going away. This is where we are in the cosmos of flying through these different high vibrational energies. We've been here before as a species. I mean, literally, you only have to look at the standing stones of 2,000 years ago, 2000 BC, and all of that sort of time to know that the ancients had an immense knowledge about subtle energy and the purpose of it, which is the manifested vibration that we call the external reality, right? And so everybody now is manifesting without realizing their external reality. And it's only if they get on the light wagon and realize that it's up to them to do this work, and then their life can change dramatically.
Yeah.
That's when they get the clue. They get it. But it's like I was talking to somebody yesterday who was saying in America there is now a whole industry. He said a whole industry of space clearing. I mean, I don't know. I can't see that it's a whole industry of, but there's a lot more awareness of space clearing for land agents, estate agents, as we would call them over here.
Yeah.
To clear houses, to clear the ones that aren't selling, to do the subtle energy work so that things shift to be the best possible outcome, right? So literally businesses are adopting some of this subtle energy work as they should do. In the past it's been tiny, insignificant, small amounts, but now the bigger companies are actually realizing, oh, hang on, there's something in all this. Let's put it into the business because it helps the bottom line.
Yeah.
But fundamentally what you're saying is that yes, the power to manifest is so fast now, and that is why so many people are being troubled by it. And we have to also accept that some of the spiritual awakenings that are occurring for people are not subtle. They are not small. They're not like the easy one that that I had. You had a slightly harder one there going on, but some of the spiritual awakenings are hitting people like a bat out of hell, and knocking them into psychosis.
Yes.
Which yes, they will readjust from, but that is a real trauma of itself. But it is a spiritual awakening. So those are people that are very much in need of help to understand that grounding is the number one thing, and then get some energy work done and help get all of that crap cleared away from their energy system, and then they will get focused again, and they will be okay.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I think, I mean, I've probably for the last 20 years, I feel like, there's been a lot of people awakening through various traumas who then they're almost so excited. And of course, it is exciting discovering a whole new world, but they're not grounded, and so they come across sort of issue after issue. And it is, for some of us who may have been on the journey for longer, it is partly our responsibility to be there to help them and assist them with these things. I feel like that's really important. And I think it's maybe going to get a bit worse before it gets better.
Don't put energy into that. It's fine. It will be what it will be.
Yeah.
But again, remember what we said earlier on is that keep your focus to your own energy and your own experience. So your own experience right now, today, your own experience today is, you've had your lovely encounter with Noah, your dog.
Yeah.
And that's a loving encounter. He might get a bit irritating when he's knocking things over, but you love him deeply. You've got your partner and all of that. We won't go into that. I have no idea about that. I don't mean to pry. So, but these are your direct experiences. That is what is important.
Yeah.
It's not anything else. And human beings love drama, right? Yeah. Human beings love drama. And if you're working a lot with people that are only just opening up, they're only just finding dowsing, and they're doing this stuff, what they bring with them is that conditioning that says, oh, life is really, it is what it is. It's really dramatic. And they're used to watching soap operas and movies and drama. So it doesn't need to be like that. There's nothing, the work that we're doing when we're working with the subconscious energies of the subtle realms, that's not spooky, that's not paranormal. These are normal aspects of being human. Drama is not necessary to have a wonderful life, right? And the drama that we create for ourselves, often but we don't realize we're doing it, is again part of that process of relating to the heart and understanding the heart and being one's true self. But that's difficult, and people don't see it to start with. So coming back to your question about what would I suggest for people that were doing pendulum dowsing, the thing that I would recommend as a path to follow, which is actually what I put in the book that's coming out in November, is to actually, once you've got the basics of dowsing understood, is to then start to explore the earth energy in your home, right? Because you can work in a safe environment, your home, assuming that you haven't got entity trouble and all of that sort of stuff. But once, most people don't have that, but you can find a little earth energy power center, a little vortex that's exactly the same sort of thing that you can find in a massive sacred site like Stonehenge or Avebury. But this one, which is, there in your home, and we'll talk about that in a sec, because it's a great little exercise to do. But you can tune into that. And what you're doing is tuning into, it's like opening the door into your own subconscious. It's like, okay, that's my connection there. That's like, oh, okay. So we can deal with that. And what you're doing really, because the veil is thinner through these vortices, these act as kind of channels of information. And you can work with that. And as soon as you start to douse and find that actually that responds to your presence, okay, that's really fascinating, because even the most dense and that's a horrible thing to say, even the most conditioned thinking, when you see a reaction with your rod or pendulum to something that you recognize is actually sacred, because the subconscious is a sacred aspect of creation, which it is, then that knows you're there. It knows your presence. And that, it's not a personality, it's not a spirit guide, it's not anything. It's just part of the mechanism of manifesting our external reality. But as soon as you connect into it and you start to play with it and get its responses, which we'll talk about in a sec, but you can see how you are manifesting what you're manifesting. That to me is just stunning, and it gives you a brilliant path. It links you into the sacred symbolism of the ancients, and right up to the really basic important symbols. But they're important because they, like a mandala, like this thing on the wall behind me, emits an energy. It in the same way as you working with a pendulum over somebody with their issues. That is, you're working at the subtle energy levels, and you're doing that. These symbols are programming symbols, and they can be found in earth energy. And when you consciously connect to them with the intention of developing your path, developing your heart, you are being helped without even realizing it.
Amazing. And let's just talk about the new book, because you just mentioned it before we go on. So that's
Yeah.
coming out in mid-November, did you say?
Mid-November, that's the plan. Yeah. It's currently with an editor.
Yeah.
Which means basically it's going to be redrafted, and we'll see. But yeah, I've been working on it for probably 18 months. But I got to a stage where I realized the book that I was actually writing wasn't the one I wanted to write, so I started again in January. So there we go. So it's called What Now? I actually have to read it. I was explaining earlier on that I keep forgetting what it's called. What Now? Exploring a simple spiritual path through dowsing and self-discovery. But that's really fundamentally what it is. And we have been touching on some of the aspects of it. But that's what I do in the book, is I take people really along the path that I followed, that everybody can follow. And it's about understanding that, yes, you've probably had an awakening experience.
Yeah.
And what do you do with it? That's what a lot of people ask. Is it's like, I've just seen this thing, and I think, what is this about? So they come to people like you and people like me, and they say, I don't know what to do with this. What does this mean? So you can use that spiritual experience and just follow it with the dowsing path. So in the book, I teach people about dowsing. I don't teach them a lot about it, because I just point them to the website. Look at the website, get into talk to me there, and I can help you directly in there. That's fine. So I'll give you the basics, but I do put in exercises, and the exercises are about not only connecting to the earth energy in your own home or wherever you want to go with the earth energy, and understanding more about what that connection is, and linking it into our subconscious. And we talk a little bit about the quantum physics of all of that as well. But really follow that path with the dowsing, and also grow with those symbols, grow with that understanding, see how it changes in the life that you're leading. And then if you want to, then start to communicate with your guides, start to communicate with the personalities that are all around you in the subtle realms, in just the same way as you do to people every day when you meet them, make a new friend or whatever. Just talk to them like that, learn from these wiser beings, and then just progress and keep that ball rolling and move on. That's really fundamentally what the book is about. It's giving some people a practical, simple path to follow. That's the idea. So, yeah.
And where are they going to be able to get the book from?
Pick it up from Amazon. I know a lot of people don't like Amazon, but quite frankly, I may have some copies myself, but I live in the middle of nowhere, and they'll have to wait a long time for it to be delivered. Amazon, has pros and cons. It's very convenient for everybody, which is partly why it's so successful. Can I just talk about that Earth Energy Power Center, right? Because we've got the dowsing pendulum. I'll try and hold it up high enough for you guys to see. So look, just a basic thing for absolute beginners that don't understand what we've got. We've got earth energy. People know about earth energy mostly through the idea of ley lines. That's usually what people find when they Google things. They find, oh, I've got a ley line in my house. Well, okay, well, you probably haven't. Well, probably what you've got is actually earth energy. Now, earth energy, okay, yes, we can highlight, we can douse lines, we can douse features like a vortex, which is a spiral. So we'll douse a spiral. That's the 2 dimensions of the 3-dimensional vortex. Come back to why that's important in a sec. But the thing about earth energy is that we actually, it's not that it's just like a line there. You go down Godalming High Street and it's like, whoa, there's the earth energy line. Well, actually, the earth energy is absolutely everywhere, literally absolutely everywhere. But what you'll find when you find that Godalming High Street earth energy line is a concentration, a focus of it, right? So it's like ripples in water. And what you're doing is dousing the peak of the ripple. That's what you've got when you find a line. So earth energy is everywhere, which means we grow up, we learn, we have evolved in earth energy. That is connected directly into our subconscious. In the book, I go on about how that can occur, but it fundamentally is part of our subconscious. There it is. It's out there. So we all know about sacred sites having a huge amount of power. Let's take Avebury, wonderful site, massively powerful, fantastic. And you can go to Avebury Henge, and ask to find the most positive and most powerful earth energy center, right? And you'll find the vortex in one part of it. Great. And you can stand there and you'll be blown away.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Same as Glastonbury tour as well.
I
If you
was
want
just gonna say that.
if you want a powerful vortex,
Then-
go up the top there.
Yeah.
And wear your lead boots, keep you on the ground. So so the thing is that you've got your entire house is full of earth energy, because earth energy is everywhere. So what you do is you ask for the most positive and beneficial earth energy spiral. Let's call it a spiral. That's the easy thing to bear in mind. So you ask where it is, and I would ask, is it in my dining? We're going to call it the living room. Living room. That's the spiral. I'm thinking living room. So we're getting a yes. Okay. So I would go down to the living room, and I would just ask. So if I stood in the corner, I'd just ask to show me the direction of where that earth energy spiral is, the most powerful and beneficial one. Your pendulum will show you a direction, because it'll. I'm now swinging it. It'll swing in the right way.
Yeah.
Then just simply go and ideally sit with it. If you can sit cross-legged or sit or relax, sit where that spiral is, and recognize that that is giving you an improved connection to your spiritual self / your subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Now, and then just meditate with that. Learn to meditate. You've got to meditate. Learn to meditate and sit in that space. If it's not in a convenient place where you find that spiral, ask it to move. Treat it like a pet. Treat it like your dog, and say, look, okay, actually, can you come over here? It's where it's a lot more convenient. And you'll get a yes response, and it'll move across, and it'll be like, okay, I can work with it here. Fantastic. And that's what you're doing, is you just want to work with it. Understand that the space in which you live can be a sacred space. And then there's a whole raft of things that you would want to do in order to keep that sacred space clear. But fundamentally, connect to the earth energy, and you're on a path. And you're on a path that's going to take you to some amazing places. But that's the simple thing.
And you run a course, don't you, that goes over 10 months?
Yeah, that's the house healing course. Because I mean, I call it house healing. I've never really known what to call it. Geomancy. Nobody knows what geomancy is. Nobody knows what house healing is.
Yeah.
But as this guy was saying yesterday, space clearing. I'm like, yeah, of course. Why didn't I think of that? So anyway, house healing is about helping people through basically dowsing the energies. But what we look for is the detrimental energies that are adversely affecting the person living in the house.
Yeah.
So we use a floor plan of the ground floor of the house, and this house can be anywhere in the world, because it's all remote work. Here is there when we're diving into that subconscious level in the quantum realm. So I may have just lost some of your people there. So you're going into your subconscious, you're dowsing, and you're finding issues. And then what you're doing, basically, once you've got that list of stuff, is you're connecting to the higher beings, and you're inviting the higher beings in to do the work on the space. Now, this is all about the heart connection and the presence and understanding yourself as the spiritual being, and being connected to the higher beings, the higher frequencies, the higher vibrations that are basically love, and connecting to those energies in order to allow that energy, that love energy, to actually influence and be present with the person that you're doing the work for. So principle, very simple. In practice, not quite so simple. And it does require, it certainly requires a degree of concentration with the dowsing, and you do have to be to a certain level of dowsing capability to come on a course. I'm starting one in September, the end of this month. And I may have some places, but I've got 2 people that are coming back to me.
Okay.
If those 2 people come back to me, then I won't have any places for this course, but I will be starting another one in the new year, probably. I can't promise that, but probably.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because and you could use dowsing rods or pendulum with that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I use either. I mean, I literally do. I fluctuate. I went through a phase a couple of years ago just constantly using the pendulum, but now when I sit to do that work, I'm using either the rods or the pendulum, and it doesn't matter, because it's just, to me, the dowsing is the the car keys, the ignition keys to start the car. So in other words, as soon as I pick up the rod or the pendulum, I'm trying to connect. I am connecting in to that energy, and really then it's an internal conversation rather than the yes no responses. So it doesn't really matter what you use for dowsing. If you use dowsing at all, some of the people I've had on past courses have actually found it more useful just to put the dowsing to one side and to just do it intuitively, because they're that sensitive, they're that tuned in, and that's fine. So it's really just about understanding what we are and learning from it. And the course is 10 months because it is a self-development process, even for people that are quite developed. Sometimes that development that we go through with them is to actually pare back their knowledge so that they can see the simplicity of it all and they can return to their real integral self.
Yeah.
And that's amazing, you know, that is incredible.
That's really interesting. I feel like when I was first getting on the sort of spiritual path, so to speak, I intuitively found spaces in the homes that I was living in that I felt very safe to meditate in. And for some reason, I felt very connected with my guides and things like that. And yeah, I'd never really, I didn't really know much about pendulums at the time. I'd had one small experience where someone had actually said to me, oh, you can use these to find out if you've had past lives or contact aliens. That was the two.
Oh, yes, okay. Yes.
Really strange things. And I remember being fascinated by the concept, but I haven't really utilized them until the last probably 3 or 4 years, which was after a second kidney transplant. Suddenly, one of my guides started suggesting that we use some charts to get more specifics with some of my clients. I feel now that after this interview, I'm going to literally go around my house.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
No, should is not a word that we should use, but you give it a go. It's just such a gloriously simple process. That will take you on a path. But I mean, I think you're very sensitive, and so you can use the dowsing. Absolutely. See, it's not about saying, well, if I'm doing the dowsing, I'm not connecting to my guides. It's absolutely about unifying these things, because what you're doing is you're enabling them, which actually are a part of you anyway, in the wider sense, enabling the communication to slightly change the way it's working in the context of what you're doing. But it's not about abandoning guides or changing that relationship to guides. In fact, it helps.
It definitely helps. I mean, I think for me, I always use the guides when I'm working with a pendulum, because I feel like sometimes have insights that maybe our unconscious mind might not want to show us because of a past trauma, or it's sort of thought, no, I'm keeping you safe and away from that. So, you can get a little bit of a bigger picture, so to speak.
100%. It's actually about the sorry to interrupt you there, but it is important, because it's this, but I'm saying it really for the viewers. The important thing is to connect as deeply as possible. Well, we say the word deeply, which suggests going down, but it's not about going down, it's about going up. But we connect as well as we possibly can into the highest energy that we can possibly tune to. And really the spiritual path is about pushing the boundary for ourselves about how high a frequency can we connect to. So our guides are part of the energy that, we're here as the solid matter. And then you've got energy layers coming out, and we can talk about the chakra points and all of this stuff. But the point is that fundamentally, as a conscious being, you go out into higher vibrations and you go into subconscious, and your subconscious is out there. It's not in here. This is just a modem. This connects into the subconscious, right? So you go out, and this is where you want to be aiming, is as high and as far up as,
Yeah, we
as
know.
high into the light and into the love as is possible,
Yeah.
and so that all of the aspects of the lower energies that are the human being and the concerns and the subconscious concerns too are left behind, because all you've got is the purity that you're connecting to. Now, even that doesn't mean to say that it knows everything,
Okay. Yeah.
right? But that's what you aim for, is to aim for, it's called source or whatever you like.
Yeah.
But it's important that you go for that, because that's the seed. That's the seed of truth, if you like. That's the Godhead, if you want to call it that. That is the source of the creative aspect that is you and your entire world. That's what you're aiming for. There's all sorts of layers and personalities and guides of all sorts, ETs and all of that in the intervening layers. Go for the highest. Doesn't mean to say you ignore all these.
Okay.
Go for the highest and you connect, and then you've got clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's absolutely how I see it as well. And I think, I mean, I suppose the one thing, just to avoid any confusion, is you do need to be grounded to go up.
Yes.
So we're using earth terms as up and down and good and bad. We don't really mean it like that, do we? We mean you have to ground to go up and out and connect. So yeah.
The tallest trees have the deepest roots. That's the thing to remember.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? I know we're sort of heading towards about an hour, and we try and keep the interviews for an hour. So
no, I think we've covered most most of the stuff. If people want to dig out my channel, it's on YouTube. You can search for me. Search for Tim Walter. I mean, you'll probably put a link in. Yeah, all right.
Tim Walter.
So actually, if you just put Tim Walter, you'll probably come up with a German football coach. But somewhere around there, you'll also find me. So Tim Walter Dowser or Tim Walter House Healer is usually the way that you'll find me. Because otherwise, that coach in Germany is going to get really pissed off.
We'll put a link up to your YouTube channel under the video.
That's great.
And your website. So the book is coming out mid-November. So
if people think that they might be interested in picking up a copy of that, at the moment I haven't got a link to a pre-sales or anything like that. It's out in mid-November. But if people want to drop me a line, just go to the website and just use the contact form. And obviously I'll be very willing to put them on a list, and I'll do a signed copy for anybody that wants to connect in that way. And we'll just arrange that in due course. But be great.
Thank you so much, Tim. You've got a really beautiful energy. Just really enjoyed talking to you and learning all these new ways to use pendulums.
Well, thank you, Kelly. It's been great.
Hopefully we can have you back sometime as well, because I'm sure
that's fine.
A lot more to tell us.
Well, who knows? Who knows? That's great. Okay.
We'll end up here.
Well, let me know when you put this out, and I'll connect people to it as well. So there you go.
Link. Let's say goodbye to everyone watching, and thank you for watching. Please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, have a look at Tim's channel as well, and share the video if there's anyone you think might be interested in this work, because it all helps us. So that would be wonderful. But for now, we'll say goodbye, and I'm sure both of us are wishing you all a wonderful day, week, month and year ahead. All right.
Absolutely.
Take care. Lots of love, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, pendulum chart in your mystic art, from realms unseen, wisdom you impart, pathways unfurl as our spirits align.